Most people who say they've been to Indonesia have been to Bali. And Bali, it turns out, is the one part of Indonesia that tells you almost nothing about Indonesia. This isn't the usual case of a tourist seeing the capital and missing the country. It's stranger than that. Bali is a single island among more than 17,000, and it's culturally the least representative one of all, the only Hindu-majority island in the largest Muslim nation on earth. Its temples, its ceremonies, its whole spiritual aesthetic, the thing that defines Indonesia in most travelers' minds, exists almost nowhere else in the country. So the person who knows Indonesia through Bali hasn't seen a smaller version of the place. They've seen the exception. They've seen the one island that is least like all the others and mistaken it for the sample. Understanding that is the key that unlocks everything else, because nearly every mistake tourists make in Indonesia flows from treating the country as if it were Bali plus, a slightly bigger version of an island they think they understand. It isn't. Indonesia is not a country in the way that's useful for planning a trip. It's a fragmented continent of dozens of distinct cultures, languages, religions, and landscapes that happen to share a flag, spread across a distance as wide as London to Tehran, covering 3 time zones. The mistakes start the moment you forget that. The first mistake is the scale, specifically planning Indonesia as if its distances work like Thailand's or Vietnam's. Indonesia is enormous in a way that maps consistently fail to convey because the country is mostly ocean with land scattered across it. The islands people actually want to visit, Bali, Java, Sumatra, Sulawesi, Flores, and the Komodo Islands, the diving paradise of Raja Ampat far out east in Papua, are separated by distances that mean flights, not buses, and often not direct flights either. Getting from Bali to Raja Ampat can take the better part of a day and multiple connections. The domestic aviation network is a complex web, schedules shift, and the casual island hopping that works in compact archipelagos simply doesn't apply at this scale. The tourists who struggle most are the ones who try to see Indonesia in 2 weeks the way they'd see a smaller country, booking Bali, Java, Komodo, and somewhere in Sumatra into a fortnight and discovering that they've built an itinerary made mostly of airports. Each of these places is an expedition, not a day trip. The travelers who do best pick 1 or 2 islands and go deep, accepting that Indonesia is not a country you visit but a region you make repeat trips into over years, the way you wouldn't try to do Europe in a single week. The second mistake is staying in the parts of Bali that have stopped being Bali. Since we're talking about the island everyone goes to, it deserves direct treatment because even within Bali most visitors get it wrong. The south of the island, Kuta, Seminyak, Canggu, has been so thoroughly transformed by tourism that large parts of it are now essentially an international expat and visitor zone with traffic to match, where the actual Balinese culture that drew people in the first place is hardest to find. Canggu in particular has become a dense sprawl of cafes, scooters, and influencers that bears little resemblance to the island's reputation for serenity. The Bali that still delivers what the photographs promise is inland and east, Ubud's surrounding villages rather than its now crowded center, the east coast around Sidemen and Aimed, the north around the lakes, and the old capital of the mountains. The mistake isn't going to Bali. It's going to Bali and never leaving the part of it that could be a beach resort anywhere, then concluding the island is overrated. Bali isn't overrated. The 30-minute radius most people never leave is. The third mistake is underestimating that Indonesia is, predominantly, a conservative Muslim country because Bali taught visitors the wrong lesson. This is where the Bali as sample error becomes a practical problem. A traveler whose entire mental model of Indonesia comes from Bali, where bikinis on the beach and beer at lunch and Hindu temple offerings are the norm, arrives in Java or Sumatra or Lombok and applies the same assumptions in places where they don't fit. Most of Indonesia outside Bali is Muslim, ranging from relaxed to quite conservative depending on the region, and the dress and behavior that are completely normal in Seminyak can range from disrespectful to genuinely problematic elsewhere, particularly for women, particularly away from tourist zones, and particularly around religious sites and during Ramadan, when daytime eating and drinking in public are best handled with discretion. This isn't a warning to stay away. It's the opposite. The non-Bali islands are the most rewarding part of the country, and being a respectful guest is what opens them up. But it requires shedding the Bali template and reading each place on its own terms. Aceh in northern Sumatra operates under different rules than cosmopolitan Jakarta, which operates differently again from the Christian-majority highlands of Sulawesi or the animist-influenced traditions of the Tanah Toraja. Indonesia is not one set of customs. It's dozens, and the only real mistake is assuming the one you learned on a beach in the south applies everywhere. The fourth mistake is treating the volcanoes and the wildlife as backdrops rather than the actual reasons to come. Indonesia sits on the Ring of Fire and has more active volcanoes than any country on Earth, and some of the most extraordinary experiences available anywhere are built around them. The dawn climb to see Mount Bromo emerging from a sea of mist in East Java, the surreal blue flames and acid lake of Ijen, the multi-day trek up Rinjani on Lombok. These aren't scenery you glimpse from a viewpoint. They're the centerpiece of a trip for the people who organize around them, and they require real planning, fitness, and often pre-dawn starts that don't fit into a lazy beach itinerary tacked on as an afterthought. The same is true of the wildlife, which is genuinely world-class and genuinely effortful to reach. The orangutans of Sumatra and Kalimantan exist in rainforest that requires getting properly off the standard route. The Komodo dragons require reaching the Komodo Islands, usually by boat trip out of Flores. Raja Ampat, off the coast of Papua, is one of the most biodiverse marine environments on the planet and one of the hardest places in Indonesia to reach, which is exactly why it remains pristine. None of these reward the traveler who expected them to be conveniently adjacent to a resort. They reward the traveler who built the trip around them in the first place. The fifth mistake is the timing, and it carries the same regional complexity as everything else in the country. Broadly, Indonesia has a dry season from roughly April to October and a wet season from November to March, and the dry season is generally the better time for volcanoes, diving visibility, and trekking. But because the country spans such a vast area straddling the equator, the pattern isn't uniform. The timing shifts island to island, and some eastern regions follow a different rhythm entirely. Raja Ampat's best diving window isn't the same as Java's best trekking window. The mistake is doing what works for most countries, looking up best time to visit Indonesia and getting one answer, when the honest answer depends entirely on which of the country's many regions you're actually going to, and when those windows don't always line up for a single trip trying to cover several. The deepest mistake, underneath all the others, is the one that the Bali assumption creates: thinking Indonesia is a destination you can understand. It's too big, too varied, too internally different to be grasped as one thing. The traveler who arrives expecting a coherent country, a national character, a single cuisine, one set of customs, a manageable circuit, is fighting the basic nature of the place. The traveler who arrives understanding that they're dipping into one corner of something closer to a continent, that the island they're on has its own language and food and faith that may share almost nothing with the island next door, is the one who actually sees it clearly. Indonesia doesn't reward the person trying to collect it. It rewards the person willing to go deep into one fragment of it, knowing the other 17,000 pieces will still be there, still different, still waiting, and that no single trip and no single island was ever going to stand in for the whole. Bali was never the introduction to Indonesia. It was just the one island that looks least like everything else you haven't seen yet. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.